In this video, we're going to look at adding chalk as well. So we've looked at proportion and mark making, and then we looked at a little bit of gesture where objects have nice, interesting shapes. And then we looked at mass or values, which is lights and darks. And we used the charcoal pencil or your graphite pencil to mass in the dark shapes, remembering that the actual object is less important than the light and dark patterns. So in this one, I'm going to do exactly the same as the last one, but I'm also going to add chalk in the light, and I'm also going to consider the background. So the background value is very important. When you're out doing landscape painting, the sky completely dictates the colours you see in the landscape. So if it's a really sunny day, perhaps the shadows will be much stronger. And when it's a grey day, the colours become a little bit richer and more beautiful as everything softens down. So here we're going to look at the background, the proportions, and add a little bit of chalk as well. So I've got a little bowl, slightly cracked, my top and bottom, and then size to see what size it is. It's a little bit wider than it is tall, so not quite a square. And then I also know there's this lovely cast shadow that moves up like that and off the page. And the bowl has these lovely angles to it. You hardly notice the shape here, this relationship. And from where I'm seeing, I can see quite deeply into the bowl. So it's got this lovely axis line here. And then remember, I'm going to ignore this shape because it belongs to the shadow shape. So this shadow here moves like that. And this one starts here. And it's much softer because it's a kind of a deep bowl. The shadow edge is much softer than when it's a cast shadow, which is much stronger. There's my little shape like that. So first of all, I'm going to, can you see that? I'm going to mass in the dark shape. Very simply. The lovely thing about oil painting is you can do that with just one brush stroke. So do you see I'm losing that edge? That edge is no longer important. Try not to smudge your drawing. Don't kind of mush it in. Use the pencil really softly to make a nice big mass, like that. Does that make sense? You've got this lovely little pattern. This isn't quite clear enough here. Now we've got, this is a lovely light, and this is a lovely light. But we've also got to remember the value or the tone of the paper. So really this is your dark, the paper is your mid-tone, and the chalk is your light. So there's a very obvious clear light here, isn't there? And there's a really strong one here. This one is clear, but perhaps not quite as clear. This is just a pastel chalk, but any chalk will do. When we go to children's party, they're often really cheap chalks, and our students often use that because it looks just as lovely. So there we are. But we can make it jump out even more, perhaps by putting a little bit of light here. Don't get too carried away with the light in the background. I'm putting a little bit of light just to make that pop. And perhaps I'll put a little bit in here, because this shape is so lovely back here, isn't it? So not too much. The next conversation we're going to have is how to model up the form, but I don't want to do that too much here. You might leave a little bit of space here. You could also just use your finger to create a little bit of a transition. Do you see? So it looks much softer and nicer as it goes through here. Or you can use the chalk on top of the charcoal pencil. Does that make sense? And then we might want to think there's an area where there's a really strong light. There's a really strong light just here. And perhaps putting chalk down isn't enough. So I've got to make the dark next door to it even darker to make it jump out. just to bring our attention to a couple of interesting little areas. I also might be inclined to lift this charcoal out because there isn't such an edge, or I could just add a little bit of tone there just to make that light of the inside of the mug jump out some more.